What's up, you guys? I'm Zach, and we're going to continue our conversation around the Dave Ramsey baby steps. Specifically, in this video, we're going to talk about baby step number 5, which is saving for your kids' college. So I just real quick want to congratulate you again for making it to baby steps 4, 5, and 6. That is epic. And if you remember back to baby step 1, I shared with you a statistic about how 70% of Americans don't have $1,000 saved. That's crazy. So if you're here in baby step number 5, or anywhere along 4, 5, and 6, then you are crushing it, and I'm so proud of you. So real quick, I just want to go ahead and set the underlying expectations and some of the guidelines of the Ramsey baby steps. You're pretty far along in the program, so I'm going to go through these real quick, but I just want to make sure that everybody has these fresh in their mind as we're talking about the baby step. Number 1, you're on a budget. You know where every dollar is going to go before you even get it into your bank account. Number 2, you're going to stop getting into more debt, and obviously if you're on baby step 4, 5, or 6, then you've already done this, and way to go. Just remember not to go back into debt. Number 3, you want to be able to live and give like no one else, and that's epic. That just means that you have a heart for generosity, or at the very, very least, you want to be able to take care of you and your family and give yourselves as epic a life as possible. And lastly, number 4, you got to remember that no matter what happens, no matter what emergency or storm pops up, that you are taking care of your 4 walls first and foremost. Some lawsuit, or you lose your job, or I don't know, something happens to your house, make sure you're taking care of these 4 things before you are saving up for retirement, saving up for your kids' college, paying extra on your house, anything like that. And those things are food, utilities, shelter, and transportation. If you're not able to take care of those 4 things, you got to work as hard as you can to get out of this storm, fix that situation, and definitely go ahead and stop the baby steps in that time. But with all that being said, let's go ahead and talk about baby step number 5, which is saving for your kids' college. So just like baby step number 3B, this is an optional baby step, which means that if you have kids, you're going to go ahead and do it, but if you don't, go ahead and skip right past it. Obviously, no need to save up for a kid's college if you don't even have kids, or if you don't have kids right now. So by this step, you've paid off all of your debts except for the house, you've started saving for retirement, and now it's time to start saving for your kids' college. Dave Ramsey recommends 529 college funds, or ESAs, which is educational savings accounts. In order to figure out how much you need to be saving for your kids' college, what you can do is you can look at a couple schools that you think that they'll wind up maybe going to, or that you would like them to go to one day, and you can look at the current inflation rate of their tuition. So you're going to look back at the past couple of years and see how much their tuition has been raised year after year. Then you can just kind of extrapolate out based off how long it'll be until your kid needs to go to college and figure out what the cost will be that year. So for example, say college is $10,000 a year. Last year it was 9, the year before that it was 8, the year before that it was 7. So you can say reasonably that the college tuition rates raised by $1,000 each year. So you can reasonably say that each year the college's cost of tuition raises by $1,000. And pretend for the sake of this that your kid is going to college in 10 years. So it'll have 10 years to grow at $1,000 a year. That's an extra $10,000 in tuition. So you can figure out that by the time your kid is going to college, that it's going to be $20,000 a year for that first year tuition, then 21, then 22, then 23. So you can add all of those numbers up and figure out how much you need to have saved for their college if you're intending on giving them a full ride. So as you're thinking about what kind of colleges you might want to have your kid go to, or what you might want to encourage them to look at, Dave Ramsey has some suggestions on things to look for and essentially ways to maximize it. So one of Dave Ramsey's key things is that you got to pick your school based off affordability and accessibility, as opposed to what looks really cool or what school is very popular right then. So Dave Ramsey suggests you go to an in-state school, so you get in-state tuition, which will save you about half in tuition, and you pick a public school as opposed to a private school. So for instance, I live in Pensacola, Florida. Maybe I would go over to UF or FSU. They're both public schools. I would get in-state tuition, and it would be as affordable as possible. Now, bonus suggestion that I would like to make, I'm 21 and I did a little bit of this, have your student go to a local community college for the first 2 years. And, maybe that's less fun, or it's the less sexy kind of college experience option, but it is definitely a more affordable option if they can stay home. And one thing I want to suggest to you is that if you figure out that maybe them going off to school would cost $15,000 a semester, but maybe they can stay home with you, and maybe it only costs $4,000 a semester for them to go to a local community college for their first 2 years of school. Maybe you can offer to give your student half of the difference to have as like spending money. Or maybe you can offer to give them the full difference between local and away for their first 2 years if you have that much saved up, if they plan on investing or saving that money to use after they get out of college. Obviously, a whole lot of students aren't going to be super down with this idea, but if you've been living with the baby steps and practicing good financial habits, then I think that they'll have seen you doing this for a period of time and really respect your opinion and want to hear what you have to say. And maybe they'll even think that it's a genius idea and they are stoked to take you up on it. So for all the parents watching this, trying to save up for their kids' college or who will need to do that eventually, I understand that student loans may seem like the only option. And maybe you yourself had to take out a whole ton of student loans. And maybe you're watching this, but you're not even on baby step 5 yet. You're still on baby step 2, which is getting out of debt. And you have a lot of student loans left. I would just encourage you, don't think that student loans are the only option for your student. If you can take control of your finances and get on a budget and make sure you start killing it and knock your way through these baby steps, you can set up your kid or your future kid for an awesome future where they get to have some of the luxuries that maybe you didn't have, like parents having saved for college for them, or not having to take out a whole ton of student loans that are very crippling and a huge weight around their neck. If you can take control of your situation right now, you can set them up for an awesome future. And another way that you can kind of get ahead of this is to just set the expectation early that you are saving for them to go to a public in-state school, and that education is as good and as valuable as any education they could get at another school. For instance, when you go to the doctor's office, you're not looking around the walls for their diploma, right? Or even if you are, and maybe sometimes I look just because I don't have a doctor's license or a diploma from a doctor's school, so maybe it looks kind of interesting, I don't know. Even if you're looking for that, you are not looking to see what college they went to, because who cares, right? You know, they're a doctor and they're gonna make you feel better. That's not what you're there for. It's not your job to be concerned about what school they went to, and clearly they did a good enough job that they're now a doctor that's treating you, so like who cares what school they, you know? So for a more extensive deep dive into this concept, I recommend checking out Chris Hogan's book, Debt-Free Degree, where he goes more into the concept of doing college affordably, as well as obviously just not taking out student loans and getting a debt-free degree. That's about it for baby step number 5. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions or any thoughts around this. Do you think that it is possible to do school today without a student loan? Or, you know, are you one of the people that thinks that you can save up and set your student up for success? Or maybe you're somebody putting yourself through school right now and not taking out student loans. Let me know down below. And also, it would be amazing if you would like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. And, you know, I hope to bring you more epic content just like this, where I'm teaching you about the baby steps, how you can just be financially independent, and all sorts of concepts around that. I hope you have an epic day, and thank you so much for watching. Dinosaur logo.